because you always use that.
Defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on. Just as the big man Ian Wright just said there, people deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciative to my long-term viewers, subscribers, supporters. Please do me a favor. Make sure you're smashing the like button. Make sure your brains are in motion. And any comments that you have throughout everything we discuss in this video, you're commenting either when this video premieres or also in the comment section after. Let's boost the algorithm and the YouTube stuff. And let's get to 60,000 subscribers, YouTube gang. And make sure you're following on Twitch, on Kick, on Twitter, and all of that business. It's all in the descriptions. Now, you know, Mikel Arteta is doing great things. Love him or loathe him. I'm not saying he's without failure. He's without question marks. There's people like Pep Guardiola who have been there, done everything in the game, and they have question marks. But I think Mikel Arteta is the man. I don't support anything any man does in society or in life religiously. Obviously, I have my own question marks, but I trust Mikel Arteta. I think he's earned that trust with his belief in his ideas. Right now, it's easy to see what he's doing, but we've come a long way. Certain building blocks he was trying to put in place, they weren't always crystal clear for us Arsenal fans. And I do think when he does quote unquote mad things, there's a method to the madness. 2 goalkeepers, letting Xhaka go, getting rid of Aubameyang, many things that we'll be here with, reinventing certain players. You know, again, Mikel Arteta, you know, as much as I believe your hit to miss ratio has been quite good, you have had a couple misses, you know, Marie, Cedric, Willian, I'll forgive you for that. Kai Havertz, the jury's still out. Big up you for bringing in Timber and Declan Rice and Jesus and Zinchenko and false left backs and great depth defensively and wavy midfielders and developing our young players. Big fan of what Mikel Arteta is doing. And you could imagine, you know, he is a manager that, you know, I'm not going to say a man hasn't achieved anything, because who am I to tell him that? You know, he's finally got Arsenal fans, the players, all fragments of this football club singing from the same hymn sheet. He's brought in a couple of trophies, but in terms of major honours and getting Arsenal to the pinnacle of world football, making us the envy of the footballing world, doing what we've seen Madrid, Barcelona in the present day, Manchester City do, we've got a long way to go. That being said, in terms of the young, new age managers, he's someone that is going to be in high demand if Xavi leaves Barcelona. The Real Madrid sort of stuff with Carlo Ancelotti, a bit like Xabi Alonso. It makes sense. If we're showing a proactiveness to continue keeping our players here and tie players down to new deals, talks around Odegaard, Benjamin White, that would follow Ramsdale, Nelson, and Nketiah, Saka, Martinelli, you know, Smith Rowe once upon a time, Saliba, if I haven't mentioned that. On one hand, I love this stuff. So it makes sense giving the manager a new contract. With the money spent and a new contract, of course, there's going to be pressure, you know. And one thing I've always said I rate about Arsenal, or specifically Arsenal under Mikel Arteta, I genuinely think that they're putting pressure on themselves. I don't think the external pressures can harm them, because the internal ones are the ones that are keeping them around. We really think Mikel Arteta doesn't want to achieve things, doesn't want to win trophies. You really think he's going to put systems and players in certain roles and do certain things. He might get them right, he might get them wrong, but he's not going to do it at a detriment to Arsenal Football Club or specifically his job. For what it's worth, Arsenal's contract talks with manager Mikel Arteta are progressing positively. Football Transfers can exclusively reveal. The Gunners are ready to offer Arteta a deal worth up to 10 million per year, with a contract of 3 seasons in the works, meaning the Spaniard will likely be contracted to the Emirates side until 2027. At 41 years of age, he is a baby in terms of a managerial career. He's only 3.5 years deep, as the man himself said. And I personally think his longest stint will be at Arsenal. I don't think he's going to be at Arsenal until he's like 51 and whatnot. I do think he'll go and manage, you know, one of the bigger European clubs and maybe even manage at international level. Hopefully we can achieve stuff. And I just feel the way the game's going, the days of Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, they're kind of gone. In the present day, which managers have kind of been at their clubs for a while? Obviously, off the top of my head, Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp. There's clearly a couple of other examples, but, you know, it's gone beyond that. You know, I know he's the manager, but I genuinely feel in the present day, managers have never been more disposable. You know, they're more head coaches now, really and truly. So, yeah, man, we all know he previously signed an extension in May 2022, but the performances of the club have since merited a revised deal, which would be great. You'd imagine, ironically, he was probably someone that Manchester City earmarked to eventually take over from Pep Guardiola when that day comes, people. So, yeah, big up Mikel Arteta and what he's doing. Once again, Arsenal's present priority is securing new contracts for Martin Odegaard and Benjamin White. A deal for the Norway international is expected to be announced imminently. I hope that's signed and it's just a case of maybe making it public knowledge, people. Meanwhile, there's no need for the Gunners to renew a deal for sporting director Edu, having received a promotion. The Brazilian is now considered a permanent member of Arsenal staff. And as you know, Vinay Ventukasham is departing. We'll probably need to get a new person in his role. There has been rumours, but we'll have to shed light. I actually don't know if we've got a new head doctor in, but Gary O'Driscoll, has he not finished his gardening leave period and starting his work at Manchester United, where the number of injuries, he's not going to get home at 5 p.m, is he? Wan-Bissaka, this guy, that guy, bare injuries surrounding Man United. So it is what it is. Big up Mikel Arteta and a well-deserved new contract. Arsenal have been linked with several wingers. We've been linked with Nusa, who I need to do the editing around the video, but I promise you guys the video's coming out. We've been linked with Kubo of Leverkusen, of Real Sociedad. Clearly, we need to find a winger in it. Pedro Neto has started life to this season for Wolves really good on the left-hand side more primarily. He can play on the right. And I'm sure many Arsenal fans, provided he can stay fit and not suffer any more setbacks, wouldn't mind him. For what it's worth, Arsenal are plotting a move for England under-21 international, dubbed the new Jude Bellingham, after becoming the latest starlet to rise through the ranks at Borussia Dortmund. The 19-year-old... Jamie has made 25 senior appearances. He's come a long way from a big injury. He's been at Reading, he's been at Manchester City, and now he's at Borussia Dortmund. I'd be wary of comparing him to Jadon Sancho or Jude Bellingham, because I don't think he's quite at them man's level when they was that age, especially Bellingham. He's probably still even that age, for what it's worth. But it's nice to know that we're linked with wingers, and we're linked with young wingers and people that fit the ethos, people. We're reportedly planning a move for the Bundesliga brightest rising talent. Whether Dortmund will let him go for whatever fee this article has said is another thing. We all know Dortmund have produced a number of players. They've made big money on Jude Bellingham. They've made a good profit on Haaland. They've made a good profit on Sancho. And there's a bunch of players that have left the club and are probably at the club that will follow that same sort of stuff, really and truly. If I'm honest. Apparently he may be young, but he already has 25. Jamie Bynoe Gittens, forgive me for mispronunciation, may be young, but he already has 25 games under his belt, scoring 9 goals and has an assist, people. Again, apparently, according to a report out of Spain, about a potential player that plays in Germany, and he's a British national joining the British team. Football is, all over and things, but I always a bit pessimistic when the breaking news doesn't come out from the breaking country. Like if it was reports out of Germany or maybe out of London or England or whatever, I might look at this a bit more. But if we're doing our job and we're scouting players that can help us, then we have to have watched him at some level, people. But for what it's worth, Spanish articles are reporting that Arteta is keen to bring the player to the club with a fee of around 26 million, thought to be close to what the German side are after, people. Fair enough, really. You'd have Nelson, you'd have Saka, you'd have, Martinelli, Smith Rowe can play there, players all around the same age and whatnot. As you know, he's an England under 21 international as well. Our Dortmund, if you've got an appreciating asset, will Dortmund be in a rush to sell him, for 26 odd million quid, where they might be able to develop him where he's worth 66 million quid? Does he reckon, despite having 25 appearances under his belt, it's the right time to move to Arsenal or anyone where you're at Dortmund, you're comfortable, you're over your injuries, you're going to play week in, week out? There's no rush to make that move. I'm not too sure, people. He does have good potential. And if Arteta does want him to be part of what we're doing in this project at the Emirates, I'm all for it. He's a left winger by trade, and obviously he can play on the right. But you'd imagine, while I do think, Nelson, in my opinion, prefers to play on the left, or in a 10, can play on the right. Trossard can play on the right. Smith Rowe can play on the right. Martinelli can play on the right. If they seem to be better on the left-hand side. And if we was to look at left wing, right wing, and up front, yes, we have the false nines in Kai Havertz and Trossard, but we only have 2 real options in Nketiah and Jesus. On the right-hand side, if Saka isn't there, you can play Jesus there, but we've only really seen Reece Nelson and, at a time, Fabio Vieira, kind of not really a winger or an inside forward, but a somewhat wide playmaker, And then you look on the left, you've got Martinelli, you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Trossard, you've got many an option on the left-hand side. It seems like the left-hand side is more stocked, really and truly. So surely it's someone who might be, quote-unquote, more stronger on the right, as you saw with us being linked once upon a time with Rafinha, with Pedro Neto, who's currently playing on the left for Wolves, with Moussa Diaby, who has since gone to Aston Villa. Smash the like button and let me know your thoughts. Bring him to the club if Arteta wants him, but it don't really say much, really. You'd imagine everybody's monitoring everyone. So when you see Arsenal are plotting a move or are looking at a player, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make a move. It could just mean we're keeping an interest in the player. We're updating ourselves if certain things happen. So we'll have to see. I've covered this already, but for some that may have missed, Aaron Ramsdale's played 4 Premier League games, been dropped for 1. There is going to be a time where Mikel Arteta is going to have to decide for all of this competition stuff, who is the number 1 in David Raya and who is the number 1 in Aaron Ramsdale. Raya, who obviously played every game for Brentford, is in the Spanish squad. I'm sure he wants to play every game. Ramsdale's in the England squad, got a start. I couldn't tell you the last time he's played for England like that. I'm sure they both want to play, especially with the Euros and what we're doing in the competitions we're in. It is a competitive side. I think sometimes the strengths of Raya in some games might be weaknesses in others. And I believe that with Aaron Ramsdale, where you look at the calmness that Raya transmits, his ability to keep calm under pressure, his speed off his line, and just his calmness and his aura about that. And also the way he collects crosses, he's better at Ramsdale in that. I think they're quite close in keepers, but he's, for me, in them aspects there, and I don't know about you lot, comment and let me know, I think he's clear of Ramsdale. So there might be some games we call for that really and truly. And I just feel Ramsdale doesn't play those passes he's capable of on a more consistent basis. I think Raya, based on the 90 minutes I saw against Everton, I think he does. We don't know who is the number 1 or not yet. It will be interesting to see, and there'll be plenty of talking points as regards to, if Raya plays against Paris, I keep saying Paris Saint-Germain, PSV Eindhoven and Spurs, or if Ramsdale starts both, or if it's Ramsdale in the Champions League and Raya in the North London derby, or Raya in the Champions League and Ramsdale in the North London derby. There'll be plenty of talking points. But I just feel until we've had a case study where we've played 10, 15 odd games, and then there's clearer contrast, which right now Ramsdale's played 4 games, Raya's had 1, we can't really comment. Ramsdale's not new to competition. He had it with Leno. He's got it for England at international duty. You go back to his talks around Ramsdale's comments and talks around when he signed for the club, and he said, I didn't expect to get it the first team shirt sooner. Bearing in mind, Ramsdale did sign a new deal. Things can change. If Ramsdale wants to leave, which I don't think at this moment in time is the thing, then fair enough, really. We've tied you onto a new deal. We'll get money. I'm pretty sure Bayern Munich and Chelsea have bought goalkeepers, and I couldn't begrudge him for wanting to go to either club, but it was very predictable. The minute Ramsdale didn't start, these question marks were going to be drawn in the same way if Timber was fit and Timber took Zinchenko's, or more so Benjamin White, because the British media, that's going to get them more clicks, and Benjamin White found himself on the bench, there'd be question marks, and it'd be that really and truly. And I think we call for tough decisions. We call for unpopular decisions. We call for rotations, whether they've worked or not. I think Mikel Arteta has done this with the system he's deployed, with putting Partey in a different role, with, dropping Havertz and actually playing him where some fans, including myself, thought, could you try something else? With not integrating Jesus back into the side straight away, with Smith Rowe kind of waiting for minutes, with even a Nelson not playing as much as well, really. And there's plenty of other examples. We want a collective and a strong squad, not necessarily a strong 11, which was our issue last season. Last year, we knew our strongest 11, and it was like there's only a certain sort of options. Now it's like we've got a buffet. We've got an all-you-can-eat buffet. You can get Indian food, American food, Italian, Jamaican, African, whatever have you. Mikel Arteta's got a bunch of options in almost every role, and also, the way he might play with a Timber at left back kind of affects what we're going to do in midfield. The same with Zinchenko, and the same all over the field. The same with Raya and Ramsdale. We need this really and truly. For what it's worth, Ramsdale's being monitored by rival clubs after being dropped for David Raya by Mikel Arteta during the win at Everton, with Chelsea and Bayern Munich keeping tabs on the England shot stopper. For what it's worth, I do think people are keeping tabs. If you need a goalie, a top keeper, and you're looking at the Ramsdale situation, you're probably going to say, listen, in the boardroom, listen, let's keep an eye on Ramsdale and see how much he plays. Then, if we get to January or February and he's not really playing to the level we'd like, or he's not playing to the standard he would want to play, you might start having talks with the advisors and seeing if it's feasible for him to leave. But apparently his future is being closely monitored by rival clubs after his role as first choice keeper was thrown into uncertainty. It was thrown into uncertainty the minute David Raya signed for the club, and the only winner is Arsenal Football Club and Mikel Arteta, because we've got 2 quality keepers. Ramsdale last season, with greatest respect to Matt Turner, nowhere near him in terms of ability. If Ramsdale has a wobble back into, Raya's in the team, or if Raya thinks, I've grabbed the shirt now, and this is my spot, you've got another international and a player of the same realm of quality pushing you, really. For what it's worth, I actually would like to see David Raya get a run in the side now, because it just makes Ramsdale a bit more hungry. When you get your chance, you don't want to let it go. And you can forgive Ramsdale, maybe even Benjamin White, for being a bit complacent. You've played every game, you're getting new deals, you're key to Arteta's system, and then you've got 2 players that essentially are coming to steal your job or steal your spot in the team. A bit like Smith Rowe. You was one of the first names on the team sheet. For one reason or another, you can't buy minutes. but things can change. Remember, Martinelli couldn't buy minutes under Mikel Arteta. Now the man starts. Trossard's come into the team now, or you assume he does. Take your opportunities. There's plenty of times Eddie Nketiah has gone up and down the country and not played. Now you're one of the first names on the team sheet. Fabio Vieira, Havertz. Maybe if Partey was fit, maybe if Arteta thinks, you know what, like with Newcastle away last season, it was a bit different. Do I throw in Jorginho? You know, there's competition elsewhere. There might be a time Kirill gets a run in the squad at left back. There's competition. We all know, you know, there are first team regulars, rotation options, squad players, but it seems like it's open season. If you want to play games, make sure you're performing in training and make sure Mikel Arteta believes he cannot drop you, which you still see as the case regardless of what I've just said around Saka and Odegaard. But the natural trajectory suggests that one day Saka, if you're not having a decent game, which some would say, I think he's playing quite well in the earliest stages of the season, and the numbers, not just goals and assists, reflect that. But if we do think, you know, he's having a wobble and there's a guy that's better than Saka or levels with Saka, like with Odegaard, you might have to old bench really and truly. Nonetheless, people, we'll have to see exactly what's going on, really. You know, big up the goalkeeping union. Shout out to Aaron Ramsdale and David Raya, same way. Apparently, nevertheless, Ramsdale's situation is already interesting a number of teams. Sorry, let's pause this. With Chelsea and Bayern Munich among those understood to be keeping abreast of developments amid a sense that Raya will likely overtake the England international at some stage this season following his initial loan arrival from Brentford. And I do believe, I don't know, did Mikel Arteta say, you know what, I like you, Ramsdale, I like you, Raya, I think you both got strengths and weaknesses, you lot fight it out? Has he told Raya, listen, you know, you're going to be my number one, just take time with it? Has he been told, you know, it's open season, and David Raya said, you know what, I like a challenge? Because Raya was playing week in, week out for Brentford. You know, he has to kind of been told, maybe you're going to be number one. I'm not too sure, but Ramsdale doesn't strike me as someone that runs from a fight. As we know, people, Bayern Munich need a long-term successor for Manuel Neuer. I don't know if they still have Nubel on the books who couldn't dislodge Manuel Neuer. They've let Jan Sommer go. Neuer's got a long-term injury and he is 38. Chelsea have signed Robert Sanchez, and technically Kepa is still on the books, even though he's on loan at Real Madrid. I'm not too sure on that situation over there. We'll have to see. If we could get 60 million for Ramsdale, I think there's a genuine question to ask people, really and truly. Apparently, there's been a degree of a shock behind the scenes at the Emirates at Ramsdale's omission from the starting 11 against the Toffees, while sections of the fan base believe the 25-year-old has done little to warrant the scrutiny over his regular selection. I do think Ramsdale makes a lot of mistakes, but I do think there's a lot of times he saves us and people draw him out. There's been internal concerns allegedly about Ramsdale's start to the season. The keeper has faced 9 shots on target so far and conceded 4 times, a save percentage of 55.6. Bit harsh to just blame Ramsdale on that. It goes for the whole team, really. Our first attacker is Ramsdale or Raya. Our first defender is Eddie or Ramsdale. Eddie or Jesus, whoever's up front, people. As we know, Ramsdale has signed a new 4-year deal in May, and he remains committed to Arsenal for what it's worth. But we'll have to see what's going on, especially with the fact that there's a Euros. For what it's worth, Romano has said the plan is for Ramsdale to compete with David Raya. He's not out of the Arsenal project. There has been some speculation about Ramsdale being monitored by Chelsea and Bayern Munich, but I'm not aware of concrete talks at this stage. Bayern signed, who's that? Sorry, people. Peretz. Chelsea signed 2 goalkeepers this summer. For January, the situation is just absolutely quiet. Smash the like button and don't forget to let me know your thoughts. We have gone through this already, but apparently Man United are in a three-way battle with Arsenal and Liverpool to sign Red Bull Salzburg wonder kid Oscar Guluk. I can't pronounce him, but the 19-year-old has played for his country in the under-21s championship, can play in a couple of roles. It makes sense that we're looking at the stars of tomorrow, really and truly. He only joined from Maccabi Tel Aviv in January for 6 million. You'd imagine they make a handsome profit on that. Apparently, Arsenal have joined Aston Villa in the hunt for Real Sociedad defender Robin Lenormand, who is a decent player, 26 years of age, really and truly. I don't know if we need more starting quality centre-backs beyond a certain point, but, I do think he's worth it. Are we going to spend 50 million for someone that isn't going to dislodge either Saliba or Gabriel in the middle of the park? I'm not too sure. We have also been linked with Zubamendi, who I'd love to sign. With our improving relations with Real Sociedad, with them getting Tierney, there's a couple of players I'd like. I think Lenormand, forgive me for mispronunciation, would be a welcome addition. I would more want Zubamendi at the club, and I do like Kubo, even though I'm aware Bayern Munich have a buyback clause. Bayern Munich. Real Madrid, apologies. You can't see the screen, but I'm looking at something with Bayern Munich. Real Madrid have a buyback clause for Kubo, so we should be looking at these stars. Timber is no way away from being fit, but it's nice to see that he's walking unaided without crutches. I'm sure you've seen Arsenal doing their photo call and whatnot, people, so it's nice to see he's walking. A long time before he'll be able to, compete physically and stuff like that. And we all know the physical wounds may heal, but the mental ones are another thing. He's on a journey, and we hope he's back sooner rather than later. Let me know your thoughts on everything we've discussed, people. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Turn on your notification bell and comment. Every comment, every like, every bit of engagement helps the YouTube algorithm push our platform out there and ultimately get us to 60K and above. So appreciate you lot for tuning in. Thank you for doing that in advance. Thank you for listening. Let me know your thoughts. Check out the YouTube playlist on my channel. One love, folks.
So you always use that active red flag, defending. I think it's like